In this lesson, we will cover skinning techniques that will help us save some time when painting weights on our creature. So as we explained in the previous lesson, it's a good idea to add animation to our bone objects, and then we can work with each envelope to make sure that its radius kind of wraps around the section it should control, just to get a good skin initially. But we'll still have to go in and paint weights. We could also work with really cool tools like the weight table to assign a precise amount of weight to certain vertices. So to bring our attention back to the legs, let's go ahead and take a look. And by the way, we just need to work on one side because we could always mirror our weights across. That will save us a lot of time. So here's what I like to do. If we were to go ahead and scroll up, we can go ahead and turn on vertices after entering in edit envelope mode. So when we turn on vertices, again, we could just go through and select all of the points we would like to weight. And then we can use, let's say, the weight table. So here's an idea. Let's say this little claw piece here is giving us some trouble. We could always go ahead and select its points. I might go to wireframe mode, hold down Control, and add more points to my selection. Then once we've managed to do that, we can go ahead and set a full weight to that claw bone. So just make sure we have them all selected. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and Alt drag to deselect any points I don't want. Then from here, it's just a matter of going to the weight table. Take a look. By default, it's set to all the vertices. Let's go ahead and switch this to selected vertices. So that starts to filter things out a bit. And here is the bone object that we need to work with. That's petio, tarsus, claw. So watch this. We can go ahead and grab the last column here, going in and selecting the vertex ID. And then we can go ahead and scroll all the way up until we've selected the topmost row. Now at that point, we can go ahead and just select one of these and put in a value of 1 for 100%. And all of them have now been assigned to the correct bone object. So if we were to close this out and turn off edit envelope mode, when we now go ahead and grab that bone object and we start to rotate, you'll notice that that section is starting to follow as it should. Now how about this other piece here that's having a lot of influence from the same bone object? Well, here's another idea. We can go ahead and turn on auto key, and we can add some animation to that little claw bone. Alright, so once we do that, we can now go ahead and turn off auto key. We can go ahead and select our mesh. And then we can now go ahead and start to work with the paint weight tool. So let's go ahead and turn on edit envelope mode. Again, just go ahead and click on the skin modifier. Go to your paint weight options. We want our weight initially at 1 or 100% so we can block in our weighting. And then when we're ready to smooth things out, we can drop our weight, typically to about 0.05 or so we can really start to refine our edge flow. And then we can go ahead and set our size as well for the brush. So once you have these settings, you can go ahead and then click on paint weights, and you'll be given a brush. Now you can see the brush is very small right now, so I might go ahead and start increasing this a bit more. Looks like about a value of 0.2 will work out well. Alrighty, so now it's just a matter of going to shaded mode, scrubbing through and taking a look at what needs to be weighted. You'd want to also go in and select your envelope object so that 3ds Max knows where you'd like to paint to. Right now we have the wrong bone object selected, so you could always go to your envelope list here, or a faster way is to simply turn off paint weights, select the envelope object, and then click on paint weights again. So watch this. So we start to scrub through, take a look. It's very easy to just go in and fill in those areas to the correct bone object. Now if you have paint blend weights on, I'd turn that off. I don't like to work with that unless we need to go in and add some refinements, some really subtle ones. We can start to blend our weights this way, but I like to do it manually so I know exactly where each point is being weighted. Alrighty, so you can see instantly we're getting some great results on this side. Okay, so just go through and start to fill in more areas, being careful not to paint on the claw unless we need to kind of smooth things out, and that looks pretty good. So if anything, we can go ahead and block in our work a bit more. I think there's a bit of influence in an area that shouldn't have influence, so we can go ahead and start to fix that. Keep in mind that this is a hard surface. If this was a softer surface, well, the weighting we're getting now might be just fine. Alrighty. So once we've managed to do that, we'll take a look at this. If we go ahead and mirror our weights across, this will save us some time. Before we do, I'd like to go ahead and grab the bone object on the opposite end, and I'd like to start rotating it so you can see how horrible things look on this side. So all we need to do now is go ahead and select our mesh, turn on Edit Envelope mode, click on Mirror mode, and take a look. We're now given a plane, so we know exactly what to mirror across. So we're mirroring from the blue side that we've tweaked to the green side, so we want to use this last option, Paste Blue to Green Verts. Making sure we're at our skin pose so the mirror works successfully, we'll go ahead and click on this last option, Paste Blue to Green. Now we can go ahead and deselect to deselect all of those selected mirrored points. And watch this, instantly, if we go ahead and grab that claw bone, you'll notice that 3ds Max has done a wonderful job at mirroring our weights. So once we're finished with that, we then want to go in and save all of those weights out. So we'd go ahead and select our mesh. We can go ahead and scroll down under the skin modifier until we find advanced parameters. We can now go ahead and click on save, and we can go ahead and save this wherever we'd like, perhaps in our scenes directory. We can go ahead and name this, let's say, skin weights underscore legs. And now we can go ahead and just save that out, so when we need to reapply it, it's very easy to do that. And I really enjoy working with the save and load weight tool in 3ds Max because it's really straightforward. It looks at each bone's name. So if you needed to detach your skin for whatever reason, it's very easy to reapply it back. Just make sure that your bone objects haven't been renamed, or if you need to recreate them, just use that same naming convention. But when we now click on load and go ahead and load in that envelope map, and then click on OK, take a look. We can now go ahead and click match by name. Everything will be aligned at that point. And now we can click on OK, and our weighting is brought back. It's as simple as that. Very fun. So that's essentially how we'd go through and weight our character. Now remember, for areas like, let's say, the thorax, or the entire vertebrae for that matter, if you wanted to have a bit of a pull as you start to move the root of each auxiliary arm, you can simply go ahead and add the root to that skin and paint a little bit of weight, maybe about 0.01 or so, so there's a bit of a shift, so it looks like an organic skin. But keep in mind that we should only have about 4 envelope objects influencing a given point. That's our max for Unity. Our max bone limit is about 30 for, let's say, a game that has a lot going on. In this case, since we're just dealing with our game boss and our player, and perhaps a few background elements, we can actually start to increase that influence limit. So right now we're working with about 68 bones or so. If you'd like to know for sure, here's a fast way of doing that. With nothing selected, I'll just go ahead and press the H key so we can enter into our select from scene dialog. And now we'll go ahead and type bn underscore and click on OK. Take a look, we now have the amount of bone objects that we are currently using, which is about 65, and this is going to actually work out very well. Alright, sweet. So again, we've made some really good progress. You just want to go through and kind of tweak your weights here and there. When it comes to, let's say, the gaster, I would block in the weight to just the gaster bone, and then you could start to add influence from the femur bone objects. So one step at a time. Let's make sure to not overwhelm ourselves, because it looks like there's a lot going on, but as long as we take our time, we add animation, start to paint weight here and there, we'll be just fine. Alright, sweet. So once that's taken care of, that essentially finishes the skinning process, and then we can start to just go in and build control objects, and that's going to be our next and basically our final step before we get into animation. So let's go ahead and start that process in the following lesson.